I'll take a roll call for the open workshop, June 3rd, 2019. It is 6:02. Trustee Alonso. Present. Trustee Casaya.
Here.
Trustee Cruz.
Here.
Trustee Finnerty.
Here.
Trustee Munoz. Here. Trustee Ryan.
Here.
Trustee Bellato.
Here.
Vice President Wilbeck. Here. President Brown.
Here.
Superintendent Wanko, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Maida. Good evening, everyone. As you remember, last year we erected a permanent monument for our Field of Heroes program. This year, through the generosity of the Bayonne Community Bank, we installed banners around the tennis courts as another tribute to our veterans. Please take a look at these pictures of our heroes as you leave this evening. Friday will mark the end of the state assessment season. However, planning starts in July for next year, and the Bayonne Public School Office of Assessment plans for multiple assessments, including the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment. The NJSLA is also the test for federal accountability requirements as well as CUSAC. The NJDOE provided reduced units and shorter testing times that ultimately had a positive impact in our elementary and high school testing schedules. Dr. Degnan is prepared to give you an update on our test administration. Additionally, we received great news regarding our federal programs. Currently, our Title I-A grant is written as Targeted Assistance, or TAS, for students in K-4 for ELA and mathematics. The NJDOE Office of Supplemental Services has granted our elementary schools school-wide status for the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Degnan will explain what that means for funding, as well as the flexibility it provides for our principals and teachers to support more students. Dr. Degnan?
Thank you, Dr. Wanko. Good evening, trustees. The NJSLA concluded in ELA and Math on May 28th, and Science will conclude on Friday, 6/8. While the online platform, Pearson TestNav, remain the same, New Jersey's ELA Math and Science assessments are now called the NJSLA for English Language Arts and Math in grades 3 through 10, and Science in grades 5, 8, and 11. The Bayonne Board of Education strives and establishes a healthy testing culture. The testing department ensures that the proper training is bestowed and certification of principals and teachers in administering and interpreting academic assessments are developed. Furthermore, through the spring 2019 administration of the NJSLA, there were many aspects that needed to be met to ensure the best testing environment for our students, and some of the aspects included the following: administering the test in controlled environments, establish and monitor the chain of custody, limit who has access to the materials, and ensure the materials are kept in a secure location when not being administered. Overall, the success of the NJSLA 2019 spring season is a direct result of all stakeholders involved, including our staff, students, and administrators. We exceeded the 95% federal participation rate in all content areas in both elementary and high school level. The next step will be to review the scores in the summer and begin to analyze the results. I must also mention that we will be administering state assessments for our high school senior students in August as part of our credit recovery program. As Dr. Wanko mentioned, currently the Bayonne Public School District runs a targeted assistance program in K-4. That means academically at-risk students are identified through multiple measures, and title teachers utilize a push-in small group instruction program to provide academic interventions. During the month of March and April, our elementary principals and data team members worked diligently on the application to transition to a school-wide program. This was a very comprehensive application that had to be submitted in a short time frame. I would like to thank our principals for their precision, attention to detail, and overall efforts in preparing a quality application. Because of our principals' efforts, the Office of Supplemental Education Programs has granted all elementary schools approval to operate a Title I school-wide program for the 2019-20 school year. In order to maintain full school-wide approval status, the school must continue to work with its stakeholder groups to finalize the annual school plan. What is the advantage of a Title I school-wide program? In a Title I school-wide program, multiple objective educationally related criteria are no longer needed in terms of identifying students to receive Title I services. Additionally, there are no distinctions made between staff paid with Title I funds and staff not paid with Title I funds. All school staff are expected to direct their efforts towards upgrading the entire education program and improving academic achievement of all students, particularly those who are low achieving. The emphasis in a Title I school-wide program is on serving all students, improving all structures that support learning, and combining all resources as deemed allowable in order to bolster the academic achievement of all students in a school-wide school. The outcome of such should ensure that all students, particularly those in low achieving, demonstrate proficient and advanced levels of proficiency as measured by state academic standards. Our 2019-20 will be our transition year. For 2020-21, we will be able to apply for additional funding because our population will increase from the targeted group of K to 4 to the larger group of K to 8. This is wonderful news for our district. And one last comment, CUSAC, just to bring the board members up to speed. The look-back year for CUSAC begins July 1st. We have signed committee people. For governance and operations will be Dr. Maida. For instruction and program, I will head that. Personnel and operations will be Mr. Kopaz. And again, Mr. Fogo will be looking at the fiscal components of the DPRs for CUSAC. And I will give you more information at our June 20th meeting. Any questions for me?
Seeing no questions, thank you, Dr. Degnan.
Thank you.
In preparation of CUSAC monitoring, Mr. Kopaz formed a committee to update the elementary code of conduct and the Bayonne High School student handbook. The committee has completed a draft of each that exceeds New Jersey Department of Education compliance. Mr. Kopaz will give you a brief summary of the code of conduct and handbook and will discuss our harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy. Mr. Kopaz?
Thank you, Dr. Wanko. When the state released the compliance sheet for the district student code of conduct, we started updating our elementary code of conduct and the Bayonne High School student handbook. I've emailed both documents to the board over the last 2 weeks and have copies for you tonight. The committee will be making our final revisions, and we will have a final copy for you to approve at the July board meeting. If you have any questions or concerns, please send them to me, and I will forward them to the committee. Also, I have copies of Policy 5512, Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying. The document is also on our district website. Each school district must annually conduct a reevaluation, reassessment, and review of its HIB policy, making any necessary revisions and additions. Our school climate and safety teams will be conducting their reviews this month, so if you would please send me any suggestions, I will forward them over to our anti-bullying coordinator, Renee Bush. Special thanks to our committee chairs, Dr. Fiamonte and Mrs. Renee Bush, and of course our wonderful committee members. Job well done.
Seeing no questions, I thank Mr. Kopaz. The business office is working diligently preparing for the opening of purchasing for the next school year. In addition, upon recommendation from the Transportation Department as well as the Technology Department, the business office has partnered with the Hunterdon County Educational Services Commission for a financial bid proposal for a school vehicle as well as Chromebooks. Also, the business office, along with Mr. Kopaz, met with Source for Teachers to discuss restructuring the current contract to reduce costs. Mr. Fagu will discuss these items in detail. Mr. Fagu?
Thank you, Dr. Wanko, and good evening. The business office is working with Ed Data Co-op to open purchasing process to begin now for next school year. Budget managers and secretaries have worked with the business office to ensure each staff member has an account with Ed Data to create their orders and generate purchase orders for their supplies for their arrival when they return in September. We have been assisting schools who had any questions and will continue to assist until completed. We received a recommendation from the transportation supervisor regarding a need for an additional school bus. During our finance committee meeting, the discussion for the need of the bus was well received. A further discussion will need to take place regarding the type of vehicle to be purchased. Finance Chair Trustee Alonso did suggest 2 smaller buses to be purchased in lieu of a larger 54-passenger vehicle. We will reconvene at the next finance meeting to discuss further and come to a decision after we receive results from the financing bid. Along with the vehicle finance, we will also be packaging financing refreshed 3,000 end-of-life Chromebook devices. If you recall, we have been doing rolling leases with our devices and are comfortable from both a budget standpoint and from a technology department needs standpoint. That portion of the rolling lease has expired and now needs to be renewed for another 3,000 Chromebooks to replace those that are end-of-life. The business office, along with Mr. Kopaz, met with Source for Teachers last week to discuss restructuring of our contract to cut costs moving forward. The meeting went well, and Source for Teachers will be returning next week with their proposal of what can be done to save the district money moving forward. I will follow up after that meeting takes place with information that Source brought to us on cost-saving measures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fagu. Last month, I met with all the principals for the yearly performance review. We discussed indicators such as state assessment proficiency, student growth, graduation rate in the high school, and chronic absenteeism. In October, I asked the principals to produce more rigorous goals. They heeded the call, and hopefully, with the increased focus on instruction in the classroom, we will have a positive impact on student achievement. I accepted their school and individual professional development plans, and we discussed their vision moving forward. I thank them for a positive and productive school year. The principals were quite appreciative of the transition to school-based management, giving them the responsibility with accountability to lead their buildings, a concept I proposed to you 2 years ago. That concludes my report. Any questions for me? Seeing none, I would like to turn the meeting back to Dr. Maida.
Okay, you can put your vouchers off to the side and start with our agenda. Actually, before we start our agenda, 2 bits of information. I know Trustee Munoz reached out to me about his training. I need any other trustees, if you need to be signed up for training, please get in touch with me so Laura and I can sign you up. Second is school boards is in October, and if you plan on attending, you need to get back to me ASAP. We need to make some reservations in the next week. So I ask you to please email me and
That's the one I'm supposed to do,
which one?
the one in October.
Governance one?
I guess so, yeah.
Have you done any?
Is that the Atlantic City
That's
one?
the one I didn't have.
That's right, you didn't have to, so I will talk to you.
Okay.
Remind me when we break, because there is a course on June 15th.
Oh,
I know it's short notice, but I could check.
all right.
All right, so we'll start with resolutions. I'm going to, I'll point out any resolution that you didn't have sent home to you, but really you had most of them. Approval of minutes, communications, you'll see a list of retirement, resignations. There are no changes. I need a volunteer who would like to move.
I'll move.
Trustee Bellato.
I'll second.
And Trustee Munoz will second. We have a list of commendations this evening. I believe, except for Dr. John Bransfield, who will not be with us tonight, and Teachers of the Year, who will not be with us tonight, but everything else we will take care of. Moving on to curriculum, instruction, and policy. The majority of these resolutions were handled at committee. I ask you just to turn to, I believe it's only A15, right, Dr. Day? A15 is the only one that wasn't handled at committee. This is for the Bayonne High School credit recovery. The highlighted names, as needed. Pretty straightforward. You'll see the staff members' names and the dollar amounts. This is Resolution A15. Not hearing any questions. Can I please ask for 2 volunteers from curriculum who would like to move?
I'll move. I'll second.
Trustee Velardo, and seconded by Trustee Casal. Thank you. Moving along to finance. I believe we need to start with B14. I think everything else was handled at committee. If anybody has any questions on B1 through B14, if not, I'll start with the resolutions that weren't done at committee. Okay, so B14 is a memorandum of agreement, uniform state memorandum of agreement between Head Start and ourselves. We do this every year, and you'll see the dollar amount, $237,552. Next up is approval of the ice rental pricing guide for the upcoming school year.
Which one is that, Dr. Mayor?
That is B15,
The next one. Okay, thank
ice
you.
rental pricing guide. B16, we have a emergency transportation. We're obligated, it's a homeless student that is residing in Jersey City that we're responsible for. And you'll see the particulars on the resolution. B17 is agreement with Essex Regional Education Service Commission. Emergency transportation routes that will begin September 2019 and continue until June 2020. Our agreement with Catapult Learning, this assists us with our nursing services to non-public schools. As you know, the money just kind of goes through us and then do the program. So we do this every year. And then finally, which you don't have, I will hand it out. We went out to a bid, April 30th? April 30th.
Thank you.
And we are going to reject that bid.
Thank you.
And as you know, we need to do that by resolution.
Why are we rejecting it?
Would you like to handle that, please?
Everybody came in over budget.
I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
Over budget.
Over budget.
Oh, it's an over budget.
So we budgeted a certain amount for the project, and we had a list of bidders that came in that day to submit their bids. All the bids were over our budget, so we decided not to accept it. Okay, moving along. That is the finance agenda. Can I get a motion and a second by members of the Finance Committee? Trustee Ryan to move. Was that a yes? Okay, Trustee Alonso, 2 seconds. Okay. Moving along to personnel. I'll ask Mr. Kopaz to please address C5, our harassment, intimidation, and bullying report.
Thank you, Dr. Maida. In accordance with the Bayonne Board of Education Policy 5512, During this reporting period, 5 incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying have been reported and investigated at the following schools. 1 incident at Mary J. Donahue has been investigated and confirmed. Strategies and resources have been provided to the victim to assist in the recovery process. Consequences and remedial measures were given to the offender. All documentation is being retained by the anti-bullying coordinator. 1 incident at Dr. Walter F. Robinson, 2 incidents at Mary J. Donahue, and 1 incident at Midtown Community School. In these 4 cases, there were no confirmed evidence of the investigated acts of HIB. Strategy, resources, and remedial measures were implemented. All documentation is being retained by the school anti-bullying coordinators.
Thank you, Mr. Kopaz. Most of the resolutions were handled by committee. This month, we pay Mr. Kopaz by the resolution. As you can see, the amount of resolutions that are on. But this happens to be the month where we renew all our contracts with our OTs, our PTs. So you can see, especially if you're not on the committee, all those resolutions, C10, all the way down and including C23. Those are all those types of resolutions. That's why the volume we have. But I'd like to point out resolutions C43 to C50. We will do those inside.
Dr. Maida,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would just like to point out, we could open school tomorrow for September. We are all set staffing-wise. Dr. Wanko had a vision to get it done by May 30th. We had all of our staffing for September complete. I think we went out. We were very aggressive with our recruiting and hiring, and I think we got fantastic candidates, and you're going to see that in our classrooms on a daily basis. So one, I want to thank Dr. Wanko for keeping that timeline. Also, our administrators for the fantastic job that they did. They were recruiting, hiring, doing demo lessons, interviewing while they're still running school buildings. So it was a fine plan. And again, we are fully staffed for September. We do have some candidates who might not be accepting, so that might be the only reason why we would be doing hiring on June 20th or July, or if we get any resignations or retirements. But again, we are all set to open up school as of today for September. So thanks again to all of our committees and our administrators. Great job.
And I agree with Mr. Kopaz, except for one thing. You have to vote on all this tonight. So if we vote on all this tonight, everything he said will happen. So I'm going to ask you to turn to, go ahead.
C7?
C7.
I think it's the field trip.
C7 is field trip.
Project graduation.
What is the question? I have the background.
Are you going to tell us the confidential site in
Absolutely.
confidence?
Yes, we just don't publicize that. We never do for project graduation.
And then the other thing I was looking at on C1, I was just curious on why there's a FLA request, but it's dated October 23, 2018. I didn't
That
know.
will be for inside.
That's inside too, okay. All right.
So I ask you to turn to C51. You can do that outside. And that is just an agreement with Dr. Urso. We do that every year. It's a state-approved physician, and he provides evaluations for the school district when needed. Following that-
Dr. Maida, I'd like to
Yes.
point out also that this year was particularly challenging because we have the pre-K, the inception of the new pre-K. So you really had to do some very, very critical thinking as to who were going to staff the pre-K programs. And this year was extraordinary because you really had to think about the movement and who was going to go where. So it was more challenging this year than probably any other year. And I would just like to commend central administration for doing such a great job and manning those districts with the pre-K program coming in.
Thank you.
Where did you see my brother?
Next resolution is project graduation. I think the resolution is pretty self-explanatory.
What number is that, Dr.
That
Mayor?
is C-52.
C-52.
52. Toward the end of your packet. See a list of staff members, the times they're assigned, the rates, and the amount of hours they will be participating. And then finally, a brand-new resolution, you haven't had a chance to see it, is personnel summer programs. That is C-53. I'll give you a chance to take a look at that. So I need Personnel Committee. Who would like to move?
I'll second.
Vice President Wilbeck, seconded by Trustee Finerty. I do have some non-consent agenda items. They will be for inside. Yes, they will all be for inside. Superintendent, anything else that I might have missed? I don't think I did. So at this time, we're going to adjourn, going into a closed session for legal personnel items. It is 6:28, and we will return.